In 1590, Governor John White finally returned to Roanoke Island with desperately needed supplies. Instead of a thriving colony, he found a deserted, fog-covered fort. The wooden doors were open and undamaged, but the settlement was completely empty. 117 men, women, and children were gone without a trace. That count included White's own infant granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. The searchers found no mass graves and no signs of a battle. The only piece of physical evidence left behind was a single word carved into a wooden post: CROATOAN. The complete absence of bodies or structural damage transformed a logistical failure into a foundational ghost story. For centuries, wild speculation filled that evidentiary void. Theories ranged from Spanish patrols massacring the settlers to local curses or widespread starvation driving the colony to ruin. In the 1930s, a series of inscribed rocks called the Dare Stones claimed to document the colonists' tragic deaths. They dominated national headlines before experts exposed them as elaborate fakes. The problem with these myths is that human beings do not simply evaporate. A group of 117 people builds fires, breaks tools, and generates trash. They leave a permanent physical footprint. To find out what actually happened, researchers had to discard the folklore and start digging into the coastal soil using modern forensic archaeology. A 16th century document provides the primary physical link to the colony's geography, a watercolor map painted by John White in 1585, called La Virginea Pars. Experts at the British Museum recently re-examined this centuries-old map using modern light imaging technology. When X-rays penetrated a paper patch on the map, they revealed a hidden symbol underneath, a four-pointed star, the standard cartography for a fort.
Tracking this against modern topography, investigators traced a line exactly 50 miles inland to a coordinate in Bertie County, named Site X. That 50-mile mark is vital. Before John White left for England, he gave the colonists instructions to move exactly 50 miles into the mainland if they ran into trouble. When archaeologists dug at Site X, they unearthed 16th century English borderware pottery and the firing mechanisms of European gun flintlocks. These artifacts prove that a faction of the settlers followed the evacuation plan. However, the small amount of material recovered means Site X could only have supported a fraction of the missing population. The rest of the colony left a clear forwarding address. The word CROATOAN carved into the post was the 16th century name for Hatteras Island, a long strip of sand directly to the south. Hatteras was home to the CROATOAN tribe. Their leader, Chief Montejo, was an established ally who had previously traveled to England and sailed alongside the settlers. Recent excavations at Cape Creek on Hatteras Island targeted deep, undisturbed soil layers dating back to the late 1500s. Look at this dig site cross-section. Archaeologists found indigenous pottery sitting next to an English rapier handle and a gold signet ring in the same dirt layer. Animal remains corroborate this. Deer bones display both traditional arrow wounds and European gunshot wounds. Finding elite English jewelry and gunshot-fractured bones commingled in indigenous trash pits provides physical evidence of a functioning, blended society. These two groups lived, hunted, and ate together. Facing a harsh winter and an abandoned supply line, the settlers made a logical choice. They dismantled their fort and divided their numbers to survive. Over the following decades, these refugees adapted to their new environment, integrating completely into the local Algonquian and CROATOAN tribes. This survival story is corroborated not just by the dirt, but by the oral histories of modern native communities like the Lumbee people, who trace their genetic lineage back to this specific integration. We have to stop calling them the Lost Colony. They did not vanish into thin air. They were abandoned by their own empire and ultimately saved by their indigenous neighbors.